Yes, you're reading that correctly, guys. The MCAT is dead. And I know it's dead because I killed it. I'm Dr. Andre Pinesett, and I'm a certified MCAT murderer. And I'm here today to invite you to my brand new live webinar, 3 things you must know to dominate the new MCAT. This webinar, guys, is incredible. Sign up for it right now. It's absolutely free. And in this webinar, you're gonna learn 3 things that are gonna turn what you thought you knew about the MCAT on its head and teach you what is really going on if you wanna be a top scorer. And I'll break it down a little bit for you guys. Give me a second. I'll break it down a little bit about what you guys are gonna learn in this webinar. But let's walk through what you guys think are the top 3 things that impact your score. And I'll tell you the top 3 things that actually impact your score and how that translates into the ultimate MCAT success formula. What is the #1 thing, if I asked you right now, and I'm asking you, what do you think is the #1 thing that determines your MCAT score? The #1 thing. Because I've worked with students for over a decade, I know your answer is gonna be time spent. You think the more time you spend studying, the better your MCAT score will be. And I agree with this. You guys always ask, how long should I study? Is 2 months long enough? What about 4 months? Well, I'm a non-traditional. Do I need 6 months? How long is long enough to study? And most students study for the MCAT for 2 to 6 months. And if you were to study for 6 months, you would think that's a lot of time. 6 months, I'm gonna be ready for the MCAT. But what if I told you the real answer to how long you should study for the MCAT is actually 4 years. I studied for the MCAT for 4 years, and the students I teach study for 4 years. Why? Because 4 years beats 4 months. If I told you someone studied for 4 years for a test, or someone studied for 4 months, you would agree the person who studied for 4 years is gonna get a better score. And that's what happens. It's just simple time. The other thing though is that time is put to better use. You all have to complete undergrad before you go into medical school. You take all these classes and you act like they have nothing to do with your future. They're isolated, independent classes that you just have to do. But if you were paying attention, you'd recognize that the MCAT is not a test of new material as so many people treat it. The MCAT is actually a test that you have learned what you should have learned in undergrad to be prepared for medical school. It is a test of the biology classes you took, the chemistry classes you took, the organic chemistry, the physics, all these things you've already taken, it tests that. So why would you spend 4 years zombieing through pre-med when you could be using those 4 years in those classes to ready yourself to dominate the MCAT? In my free webinar, the first thing you're gonna learn is how to effectively and efficiently use your undergrad to prepare for the MCAT. And what that will do for you, it will amplify your learning in the classes, allowing you to get better grades there, but it will also create this huge sound set of notes for you to study from and a great knowledge base for the MCAT. So that way, when you get to the final couple months, when everyone else is just starting to study and they're stressed out and they're overwhelmed, you feel confident because for you, it's just a couple months of review, right? You've got the ultimate set of notes and you're just gonna review and go and get your top MCAT score. So that's the first thing you're gonna learn in my free webinar. The second thing you're gonna learn, right? Because you guys think the #2 thing that determines your score is more resources. And I can't spell, but it's okay. You guys think if I go out and I buy this company's books and that company's books and that company's books, or you borrow them for your friend, or like the broke student like I was, you try to bootleg the PDF copies off of studentdoctor.net, and you think that having every single book that's ever been written about the MCAT is going to help you score better. That's simply not true, guys. And the reality of this, right, you guys experience this all the time and you just don't even recognize it. How many of you have taken a course where the professor has 5 or 6 books listed on the syllabus? Right? We'll make it an extreme case. The professor has 10 books listed on the syllabus. When you see that, do you go, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I've got 6 books to memorize. All this information is gonna be so helpful and I'm gonna get an A on the test. No, you don't. You say, what is this professor smoking that he thinks I'm gonna be able to memorize 10 books? This is too much information. I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed. I don't even know how to start attacking 10 books. This is crazy. then why do you think it's going to be different on the MCAT? You think all of a sudden having lots of books is the key. That's not the key. The key is having the right resources. Better than 10 books is one book that is pure MCAT magic. Well, in my free webinar, I'm going to teach you the #1 absolute MCAT prep resource you must avoid. At all costs, you must avoid this resource. And the sad thing is, guys, that most students actually use this resource and it kills their score as opposed to enabling them to kill the MCAT. So I'm going to teach you to avoid that MCAT resource, and I'm going to teach you how to critically evaluate what resources you need to help you be a top scorer. That's the #2 thing. The #3 thing that you guys think impacts your MCAT score is more full-length tests. How many of you guys have heard the more full-length exams you do, the better? If your score isn't where you want it to be, take more full-length exams. We all hear that. I'm here to tell you that is absolute hot garbage. The more full-length tests you take will not improve your score. This is science, this is fact, this is real. The more full-length you test will not improve your score. What will improve your score is taking full-length tests properly. You guys know when you do practice questions, there's a difference between kind of going through the motions and actually engaging with the question and sucking all the juices out of those practice questions. Most of you don't know how to do full-length tests. I know you think you do, but I've worked with enough of you guys to know you don't know how to do full-length tests. In my webinar, I'm going to teach you the true purpose and function of full-length tests. I'm going to teach you how to make the most of every single full-length test. That way you can see your score go from here to here and you can crush the MCAT. Right? So as you can see, this is what you're going to learn in my webinar, and it takes off of this. The ultimate MCAT formula for success is your MCAT score equals your time spent times the quality of that time. And the problem that most of you guys run into is you don't spend enough time because you're only spending a couple months when you could be spending 4 years. And even if you spend a lot of time, you don't use the time wisely. You spend it drowning in resources, drowning in full-length tests that you never get around to reviewing and learning from because there's just too many of them and you don't know how to attack them. You don't know how to keep yourself engaged in the material and not be burnt out and not be stressed as you're studying, right? I go through and I break down all the quality things that are gonna improve the efficiency of your studying to help you out. And you guys, you need to get in my webinar. You can sign up for it right now. This is a free webinar. It's 2 hours packed with information. You're gonna learn all this totally free, guys. And you may be saying to yourself, who is this guy? What is he talking about? I don't know who he is. Well, I'm Dr. Pinesett, like I said. I am the pre-med productivity expert, and I am a master test taker. I am a student of studying, guys. I am one of the world leaders in studying. And I'm gonna teach you my strategies for success. And you might say, well, wait, how do I know what you're teaching is gonna work for me? I'm a dummy, I'm a smarty, I'm all over the place. Well, let me take a second and tell you who I am and where I come from. I'm a first-generation college student, guys. I'm the first in my family to want to be a doctor. When I went to medical school, or when I went to undergrad, and went to college, I was just hoping to survive. That was my motto, just survive, don't embarrass your parents, don't get sent home, right? That's what I was focused on. And at the end of my freshman year, my lack of experience and ability as a student showed, and I was told by my counselor that I would never get into medical school because I was an average student. I didn't have what it took to get into medical school. And they told me to change my major. Anyone experience this? Anyone ever feel that low, that small, that terrible? Well, I felt that, guys. And it motivated me to say, no, I can be more. And so I devoted myself to learning how the experts study. And I devoted myself to being beyond a great student, to be a super student. And I became a super student, guys. And with my super student prowess, my magical abilities to study, I was able to study independently for the MCAT and get my 95th percentile score and ultimately get into not just any medical school, but to get into Stanford Medical School. And now I'm trying to teach you guys who have been told you're average, who've been told you're below average, that you can be a top scorer on the MCAT, but you have to do the right things. You have to have the right study strategies, and I'm gonna set you up for success in my webinar. If you think I'm exaggerating, if you think I'm crazy, don't take my word for it. Listen to what these students have to say about my MCAT prep and sign up for the webinar right now. Was I kidding? I'm telling you guys, this MCAT webinar is life-changing. 3 things you absolutely have to know to dominate the MCAT. Sign up right now, guys. I'll see you soon. I'm excited to have you at the webinar. Get ready for some fun, get ready for some learning, and get ready to be 100% confident that you can murder the MCAT. I'm Dr. Andre Pinesett. I will see you on the webinar.